Hi, my name is Kayla Steele, and I'm going to walk you through my Aurasma game, which is an independent learning project on genetics. As you can see, I'm not in my normal learning environment. I'm not in the classroom. I'm actually on vacation, so that just shows that this independent learning project can be done from home. It can be done from anywhere. And I'm just going to start walking you through the steps. So this is just a notebook that I'm going to work through as I play this game and get through this great lesson on genetics. So I'm going to open up my Aurasma app on my phone and start the game. All right, first I'm going to click on the first page.
Have you ever wondered why you look the way you look? Maybe you look just like your dad, or just like your siblings, or just like your mom, or maybe you have the same two parents as your siblings and yet you don't look like anyone in your family. Well, we're going to do an independent learning project using the app Aurasma to learn more about genetics and how we inherit our traits. You're going to work through this notebook using the Aurasma app. Please make sure that you click on any words that are decorated or images within this notebook and work through and follow the directions, and don't hesitate to ask me if you have any questions. Thanks and good luck. Have you ever wondered why
Okay, so now I've gone through the first page, and now I'm kind of starting to think about genetics and why I look the way I look. And I do look a good bit like my dad, but I look a good bit like my mom, and I'm just kind of starting to think about my siblings, whether we look the same, and I'm just starting to feel a little bit interested in this project. So I'm just going to continue moving forward. That gave me some directions so that I know to click on all the images that are within this notebook, and I'm just going to keep moving forward and keep learning more.
We're going to start exploring your eye color and where it might come from. So we're just going to do a small project where you define what your eye color is, the eye color of your immediate family, including siblings, parents, and grandparents. And you're just going to make a simple chart that looks like this. Notice that I used the color marker of the eye colors that we have. So you can see that me and my sister have green eye colors. My mom has blue, my dad has green, and you can see the rest of my family as well. So put together a simple chart that looks something like this with the eye colors of you and your family members. We're going to start exploring.
Okay, so now I have to start and make an eye chart and go through the colors of myself and my family and get ready to start really thinking about why my eyes are the color that they are. Okay, I've made my eye chart, and you can see that my eyes are green. It might be kind of hard to see in this lighting, but they are green. And my sister also has green eyes. My mom has very, very light blue eyes. I almost say they look like a husky. And my dad had green eyes. He's deceased now, but he did have green eyes. And you can see that both of my grandmothers on both sides of the family had green eyes, and both of my grandfathers on both sides of the family had blue eyes. So I went ahead and put my children in here as well, and my husband. So you can see we have a whole lot of green and blue-eyed people in my family. So I'm ready now to move on to the next section of my notebook. All right.
The next section of your notebook will be definitions. Make sure you hold your Aurasma app over every single definition, and make sure you're writing down the definitions as you go along so that you can go back and study them later.
Okay, so it sounds like I'm going to have to work through some definitions. Those are always important when you're learning new material. So I'm going to go through these definitions and would jot down notes and take notes on what the definitions are. These can also be used later as flashcards, so I can go and study these using my Aurasma app once I'm ready to be tested on this material.
A variant form of a given gene. A variant form of a given gene.
Okay, so an allele is a variant form of a given gene, and I will write that down. On to my next definition, genotype. Let's see what genotype means.
The genetic makeup of an organism.
All right.
The genetic makeup of an organism.
Okay, so the genotype is the genetic makeup of an organism. We'll take notes on that. All right, let's look at phenotype.
The result of the genotype and the environment. This is the physical appearance of an organism. The result of the genotype and the environment. This is the physical appearance of an organism.
Okay, so the phenotype is the physical appearance. So now I'm thinking genotype is what the genes are made of, and the phenotype is the physical appearance. Okay, now I've got two definitions on one page. I've got homozygous and heterozygous.
Rather than defining homozygous and heterozygous, I thought it might be beneficial to share this chart with you from www.majordifferences.com, and this chart shows the difference of homozygous and heterozygous.
Okay, so I can look through this and I can see that homozygous is a pure trait and heterozygous is seldom pure. And I can look through and I can either go to this website or I can just look at this and take notes off of this chart here.
Rather than defining homozygous and
So for that one, you can either go to the website and actually record the chart, or I can just use that and listen to the voice over and over again, but I can take notes directly from the Aurasma app as well. All right, traits, dominant and recessive.
When an allele is dominant, the characteristic it is connected to will be expressed in its offspring. When an allele is recessive, the characteristic it is connected to is less likely to be expressed. Recessive traits only manifest when both parents carry that recessive trait.
Okay, so that gives me a good idea about what dominant and recessive is, or what they are. And I'm just going to continue to work through my definitions. All right, next is Punnett square.
To learn more about Punnett squares and all of the definitions we've covered today, go to your web browser and type in this link.
Okay, so I'm going to go to a web browser, type in that link, and let me grab this device here. Okay, so I've already typed in that link just to save some time, and it is a video it's an introduction to Mendelian genetics. And it's about a 5-minute video. See if I can get some of it to show up.
Cells contain 46 chromosomes, which contain the DNA that makes each cell unique. And 23 of these chromosomes were inherited from a person's father, and 23 were inherited from the mother. So we can say that each person is made up of a combination of genetic code from both of their parents. Now sometimes we like to say that we have 23 pairs of chromosomes, instead of saying that we have 46 total, because that way we remind ourselves that for each chromosome.
So the video that we watch, it's 5 minutes long, so I'm not going to watch all the way through it as I'm going through, showing how to, as I'm working through this game. But it's 5 minutes worth of really good, simple instruction. It covers all of the vocabulary words that we just learned through our Aurasma game. And then it also is an introduction to Punnett squares. So it's going to teach me how to do Punnett squares and how to create them and what they are and how to get results from them. So that's what this video is all about. So I'm going to continue working through my Aurasma game, my independent learning project. Okay, so you can see here I have some examples. And so this comes right after that video that I just watched. So let's look at example 1. Okay, so that's a simple Punnett square. I've got a capital B for brown eyes, lowercase b for blue eyes, and the mom and dad are both heterozygous, big B, little b. And so I'm making a simple Punnett square of the mom and the dad to see what the probability that their children will come out with brown eyes or blue eyes. and there's a 25% chance of a homozygous brown, 50% chance of a heterozygous brown, and a 25% chance of a homozygous recessive blue-eyed child. All right, moving to the next example. Okay, so this is a hair color Punnett square. And so you can see capital B is brown, lowercase b is blonde, and the mom is a homozygous recessive blonde, and the dad is a heterozygous, a homozygous dominant brown. So you can see that as we mix, we have 100% chance of the children becoming heterozygous brown hair with that recessive blonde showing. And then the last example, example 3. And this is a pea plant chart. And so the pea plant seed coat color, capital G is green, lowercase g is Y. The female plant is a heterozygous green plant, and the male is a homozygous white plant. So as you can see, we have a 50% chance of heterozygous green offspring and 50% chance of homozygous white offspring. So those are just 3 examples that I'm working through. Okay, so the next part that I come to in my Aurasma independent learning project game, it's telling me to hover over the chart with Aurasma. So you can see this is a worksheet that I'm going to have to work through. It's called Greg Mendel's Pea Plants. So let's see what happens when I work through this or hover over this.
Take a look at the worksheet provided in your folder. It's called Greg Mendel's Pea Plants. Note that it's got a chart of pea plant traits, followed by a lot of questions and Punnett squares for you to complete when you're looking at that chart. So just work on this worksheet, ask me if you have any questions, and good luck.
Okay, so those were just some instructions for me to work through this worksheet. Hopefully you can see the nice chart that shows what everything is represented by for the pea plant traits. And then as I work through this worksheet, I've just got some simple Punnett squares. And I've just learned in that instructional video how to complete a Punnett square. I've seen some examples of how to do Punnett squares in addition to that video. And so I will just start reading these questions, and I'll have to refer back to this chart every time that I fill in this Punnett square. So everything that I need to know is going to be available on this chart, and I'll just start working through this worksheet and start applying the knowledge that I gained through my video lesson and the vocabulary that I've already learned. Okay, so when I finish the worksheet that I just went through, you'll see that I come to a new assignment, and it's also telling me to hover over the chart. So I'm going to hover over the chart with my Aurasma app.
Your next activity is your bug creation activity. This activity is really fun, and you'll get the opportunity to create your own bug. This is what the worksheet looks like. It's provided in your notebook. You can see that you will notice what is dominant and what is recessive, and then I give you the traits that the mom has and the dad has. You'll have to write what the phenotypes look like, and then you'll have to choose either the mom or the dad and actually create a model of that bug. And we can talk more in person about how to create that model, and then you're actually going to use Punnett squares, the directions here at the bottom, to determine what the genotypes, the probabilities of the genotypes of the children might be. All right, good luck. Your next activity
so I'll work through this worksheet, and this is a really big assignment that really is going to have me applying my knowledge. And so I have a dominant, and it shows me what, like the red antenna is going to be dominant, and you can have a homozygous, capital R, or a heterozygous, capital R, lowercase r, and the green antenna would be homozygous, lowercase r. And so it goes through all the body parts of this bug, and then we're going to look at the mom's genotype and the dad's genotype and figure out what they're going to actually look like. So I can look at the mom's genotype, capital R, and know that the mom is going to have a red antenna. And so I will work through all of that. And then the bottom two assignments, the little down here, it tells me to actually create this bug. So you can use whatever material you'd like. It says candy, colored pencils, Play-Doh. Either way, we're going to make either a drawing or a model of either the mom or the dad. And the students, I'll have the flexibility to choose what I want to choose, whether I want to create the mom or the dad. And then I'm going to create my own Punnett squares to try to predict the likelihood of the offspring inheriting certain traits. So I'm going to create a Punnett square for each feature. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'll have 7 Punnett squares by the time I'm finished with this activity. And then lastly, you can see on the last page here, I have a conclusion and looking ahead. So let's look through that on the Aurasma app.
I hope you've had fun learning all about genetics and how we inherit our traits. We're going to learn more and more and dig deeper and deeper into genetics. As a final closing activity, I want you to look back at the chart that you made about your own eye color and your own family's eye color. And I want to see if you can try by tracing your family to figure out what alleles you have inherited. For me personally, I think I inherited a blue from my mom and a green from my dad. So I believe I have a green and a blue, and the green is dominant over the blue. See if you can guess your own alleles, and see if you can guess any other family members that you may have as well. Good luck! I hope you.
Okay, so I'm supposed to go back to my original project and see if I can figure out maybe what I've inherited. So looking at my chart, I come from, so green is dominant over blue. And so my mom would have to have 2 recessive blues. So I would have had to inherit a recessive blue from my mom. Now my dad could have either 2 dominant greens, or he could have a dominant green and a recessive blue, and so he has green eyes. So it's possible that he could have either one of those. So for me, I feel pretty confident that I inherited a blue from my mom and a green from my dad, and the green is dominant, and so that is why I have green eyes. All right, the last section here, looking ahead.
In this independent project, we have covered the basics of genetic inheritance. As we move forward, we're going to get more and more detailed. And as a matter of fact, you'll find out that eye inheritance isn't based on just one gene or one set of alleles at all, which is why we can have all kinds of shades of colors of blue and green and brown. And so as we get more into this unit, we'll learn more and more about genetic inheritance, and I'm really looking forward to it. Bye. In this
Okay, so now this whole looking ahead has me thinking even more about my eye color, because I have kind of a medium green eye color, but I think about my mom and how light blue her eyes are. They're almost ice colored. And so now I'm told that eye color doesn't just come from one gene at all. It comes from multiple genes that code for eye color. So now I'm kind of curious more and more about how we get our eye color, and I'm looking forward to learning more about genetics and why I look the way I look. I hope you enjoyed the Aurasma game.